Croeso, hello, welcome to the latest episode of Rob, Ryan, Red, the Wrexham podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. On today's show, we'll look back at Wrexham's win over Stockport County, discuss our early player of the season contenders, and look ahead to two daunting away matches on the horizon. All that and more on today's show.
Rob, Ryan, Red.
Nath, only one place to start, and I can't believe, for those of you watching on YouTube, I didn't even put on my free Wrexham bobble hat. Hats off against the Hatters. I know Wrexham fans are very big-headed, but that's small, isn't it?
I didn't get one. I was in Amsterdam departures, but apparently they're very snug.
Very.
Can you get it? Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That'll treat you. That'll treat you well on a nice wind treat. You've got a little bit of tuft just sticking out the front.
Yeah, very fashionable.
Yes, you actually scare me a little bit. Please take the hat off. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's one of those where, obviously a free gift. Thank you to United Airlines for providing those. But yeah, that hats off against the Hatters. Started with Wrexham fans waving their hats in unison. It was almost Glenn Little-esque. I obviously didn't take part in that. But it was quite a spectacle, I suppose, to watch. It got, the sort of scene set. Wrexham against Stockport. It felt like a really big game. The atmosphere was great throughout, and Wrexham did what they do. They beat Stockport County at home. It's kind of the quirk of this fixture in recent years that the home side always wins. The house always wins, Nathan Salt.
Yeah, well, firstly, I was going to say, are you well? Now you're off your little retreat, the room, the bright light that people were questioning if you were under interrogation. But you look well back in your normal space with the planes on the blind that people have come to know so well. Yeah, it was, as I said to you last week, it was a game that we just couldn't lose, in my opinion. We needed to not lose. And I think you saw that with Stockport's defeat, they have all but written off their automatic hopes now. And they are looking ahead to the playoffs. And if they end up getting out of the playoffs, perhaps it'll be a blessing in disguise. And who knows, we may end up meeting each other again. It might not be our last alliance with Stockport. And they always are good games because, like you say, the home team is always bang up for it. They usually edge it. But and people hate saying it's a rivalry, it's not a rivalry, etc., etc. But whatever you want to call it, it's a good little joust over recent years. It's been a game that has been enjoyed, sort of despised if you lose it, enjoyed if you win it. But there's been some great games, and this probably wasn't up there in terms of the drama of a Paul Mullin in the FA Trophy semi-final, or they would say the 5-0 drubbing where we couldn't do anything other than look away in disgust. But it was 1-0 to the Wrexham, another clean sheet, and a big step towards back-to-back-to-back.
Yeah, still a long way to go, I suppose, isn't it? I'm not getting too giddy yet. I was very giddy at full time, so much so that I ditched my car in Wrexham and went for an impromptu night out to celebrate. Such was the sort of size.
Where did you go?
So I went to Magnet Club. The sign outside has the John Smith's logo on it, so that was fantastic. Bumped into a family friend who got us on the whiskey shots at about 5:30 p.m. and then went to the Pull and watched Wales there. Had a lot more John Smiths. I'm not sure if I should divulge this, but I bumped into someone as well on my night out who had somehow gone on the night out with the actual match ball.
I saw the picture. We saw the picture on social media. We can say it. Dewi had a great time with the match ball out and about. Would you want a match ball for a night out? Is that what you would take out with you, or?
I'm not sure I'd take it out with me. I'd definitely take it home with some sort of trophy, maybe, though. Yeah, was it Erling Haaland used to say that he took his match balls home and slept with them or something? Was that? I think that was at Dortmund. But yeah, I mean, after that win, that match ball will go down in Wrexham history, I suppose.
I'm surprised Jay Rodriguez didn't take it though, because he got his first goal finally. We've been suggesting he's maybe not the answer, and he's lucky to still be in the team, but. I'll tell you what, it was I bet his heart was in his mouth for about a split second when that poor penalty was saved, and he obviously responded quickly and gets the goal. But there was a kind of, it felt like I was watching, like I said, from the departures at Amsterdam, unfortunately, and when I was watching it, you just felt like you could hear the intake of breath when Smith passes that ball to Rodriguez, and everyone goes, oh God, and then obviously he eventually scores. But it's, I thought it was a game that had more positives than negatives in it, for sure, in terms of the performance
I
aspect.
really can't think of many negatives, to be honest, genuinely from it. I think that they obviously did what you expect any team to do against Wrexham in a big game. They had chances, they had a lot of the ball, but did we really ever look like conceding? They had a chance in the first half, they went wide of the near post. A, a, a good save from Okonkwo in the second half from the corner, but if that
That
goes
is a
in,
good save.
I was about to say, but if it goes in, he gets slated. So I'm not sure actually is that good a save. It's like, do you know what I mean? I do think it's a good save I wouldn't be able to make, but it's also a save that if it goes in, he gets slated, and people say,
There,
"Get Mark Howard in, get this
there
lad
was
out."
there, there was some thunderous challenges as well. I mean, it could have been a
It just
couple
felt
of
like a proper game. I mean,
yeah.
there was a hilarious one that Elliot Lee did right at the end of the second half, where my God, I think we got the free kick for it, but Elliot Lee just left one on someone right on the touchline, and play went on. We won the free kick, I think, eventually. And I guess the other thing, Nate, without again getting too cocky and getting too carried away, because there's a lot of
Which you
football
never
left to
do.
play.
You never do that. That's me. You never do that. You're
There's a
always
lot of football
very.
to play. But what it felt like was ever since we had that first proper kind of duel after the takeover with Stockport, we were always told, "Oh, they're above us. They're better than us. They're a year ahead of us in the project. They've got a more clear sort of squad. They can just add one or two players every summer. They don't have to do the same overhaul we have to do. They fly planes over our stadium every time to goad us and remind us who the real sort of team is around here. And we gave them a head start in the Football League. We caught them up, and now we've overtaken them. And it did feel quite a euphoric day. And obviously, football will bite us in the backside. And in 5 years' time, Stockport will probably be above Wrexham in the football pyramid. And that's just, that's football. You take that. But these are the glory days. These are the golden days. And it felt bloody good to be ahead of them. And, something would have to go pretty wrong now for us to not finish above Stockport this season. And that is a huge, huge compliment to the mentality and the mindset of this Wrexham team. And yeah, in terms of the performance, I was pleased. It was Wrexham in a big game. It's what you get. And it was another one of those matches similar to Wickham, similar to Huddersfield. We could have lost it 1-0, but we didn't. And it's the argument you can make every single time. And it's almost the argument I'll be making next time we do lose 1-0. Because I think we will lose one game before the end of the season 1-0 in very similar circumstances where not much happens. Someone takes their chance, we don't take ours.
Yeah, it's the nature of 1-0 is that goes for you 1 week, it doesn't go for you the next. We'll see now. It's Exeter coming up, it's Cambridge coming up. Games that we will be heavily favoured to win. Were we heavily favoured to beat Stockport? I don't believe we were. Pretty even game.
Mm.
The next two games will be games you'll be heavily favoured.
We did have an email as well, Nath, from Andrew Winters. He says, loves the show, long-time listener, first time emailing in. 2 points he made. One was about the McClean. He basically says McClean should get an assist for the penalty. We'll go into that in a second. But he said, why is Rodriguez taking the penalty? At the moment, the fans have zero confidence in him. He doesn't need a chance to let them down more. Thankfully, he cleaned it up very well. I did feel like maybe he sensed the nerves of the racecourse when he stood up to take that spot kick. What did you make of him being given it? I know hindsight's very useful with the rebound, but if he missed that could have killed him.
It could have done. I don't believe that it was a sentimental decision. I don't believe it was like, let's try and get him some confidence. Let's try and get him a goal, because for all you know, that is the only chance you're going to get in the game. That is that Wrexham are not going to create very much. That is it for Wrexham. So I don't believe it was kind of, I'd love to say Smith just had a very nice gesture and he felt like, I'll just give him the penalty. No, I firmly believe that Parkinson has a hierarchy of penalty takers, of which with that starting lineup, Joe Rodriguez is the primary choice there. I have been critical of him so far, but you have to understand that he's hugely experienced. I know it was a poor penalty, but he's taken plenty of penalties over the course of his career, and I'm not surprised that he's probably rattling them in training. And Parkinson said, "That's our guy. That's the man I want to step up to take a penalty." Because you've seen others. I mean, people were saying maybe Elliot Lee could have took it. He did miss in the shootout against Peterborough. I know that's a one-off, but the last penalty he took for Wrexham, he did miss. Mullin wasn't on the pitch. He's not really on the bench. He did score in that reserve game this week. He's obviously been on penalties for ages for us. He missed his last one. Sam Smith, we've never seen take a penalty for Wrexham, and mainly because we don't get penalties. Sam Smith gets yanked down all over the place. We never get them. So, yeah, I think it was just a data-driven decision. They probably thought he's our best taker. And, yeah, I felt like when he stepped up, you could just hear that collective intake of breath, which is why probably Smith was holding on to it for as long as he did beforehand.
Yeah, again, I agree with you. I don't think there's any handouts in this Wrexham team ever, really, and particularly not at this stage of the season. We will have been given the penalty, and it would have been right. Our penalty taker, the best one on the pitch, is taking this. So, it's one of those. It was a poor penalty, but if the keeper dives the other way, it's a good penalty. Finds the back of the net, and ultimately, we did get the goal from the set piece in the end. So, it's not ideal, but it went in, and hopefully that's lift off now for Rodriguez. He's got that sort of burden off his back. Hopefully, a bit more confidence now. You could see the relief, I think, in his face when it went in, but you could also see how the players really did sort of joke with him and they congratulated him, and they know how hard he works every day. Parky knows how hard he works every single day. This is a very experienced player who you still have to pinch yourself to be like, he plays for Wrexham now. And I think it is perfect now. He's been the match winner, and hopefully it gives him that confidence for the rest of the season. And yeah, Sam Smith got 3 goals himself in the Wrexham shirt, or was it 4, 3 or 4? He wasn't. We wouldn't be saying, well, I've already scored 3. You can have one now.
Exactly.
It wasn't that whatsoever.
That's my point. That's my point.
The other point that Andrew made, and I guess this is a wider point as well, Nath, was James McClean. I thought he was exceptional on Saturday. Obviously, he gets booked very early on. There's some wild challenges that go in. There's the incident with the Stockport fan towards the tunnel, and what will come from that. We'll talk about that. What Andrew said in this email was, can we give McClean an assist on that penalty? There's no way that's given if McClean isn't leaning on the assistant after the first penalty shout and then seeing McClean walking over to him knowing he's about to get another earful. The assistant tries to be the hero and signals the head ref over. If it's not McClean in front of the cop end, that penalty doesn't happen. Give the man an assist. I get the sentiment. I do think that the player did play a role in us getting the penalty by his, very impassioned play and, it being so close to the assistant. I don't think what end of the pitch it was at made a difference. I think the tech end would have been just as vocal, probably more so vocal. No offense to the temporary cop stand. But I've got to have my loyalties with the tech end. But yeah, McClean in general, Nath, what did you make of the penalty incident? I know Stockport were fuming with it. And what did you make of it as a game? Because I think Wrexham are one of... We say every week, don't we? Oh, McClean's got to get sent off sooner or later, or someone's got to get sent off. I think Wrexham are one of only 3 teams not to have had a red card in League One this season. So the discipline isn't maybe as big a problem as it feels at times.
I wouldn't have been happy if that was a penalty against Wrexham. I'd have been fuming if that was a penalty against Wrexham because, A, the player's been pushed in the back and it's, all right, his arm, is that a natural position for his arm to be? I just think that, from my point of view, if that was against Max or Owen O'Connor, I'd be livid. But I don't care, and I'm chuffed because it wasn't against our lot. It went for our lot. I just think that, things, we say it all the time, things even out. I thought when Sam Smith was dragged back by Ethan Pye previously, minutes before, that was a penalty, and that wasn't given. So, there are other ones where we haven't got it. We mentioned the one previously, Sam Smith at Wickham. That should have been a penalty. We didn't get that one. So, we haven't. We've had. I think that was our first penalty since Boxing Day when Stephen Fletcher scored against Blackpool at home in the fog when it hit the person's back. Right, there've been some sceptical ones, but we haven't.
I guess the quirk for us this season is we've had some very dodgy penalties awarded to us, but some clear ones denied, haven't we? I think we have had the right amount of penalties this season, just not for the decisions they should have been given for.
I mean, 2, is that what we've got? Is it 2 penalties or 3 penalties or something? So, yeah, it's quirky in that sense, but yeah, McClean is a wider point. I mean, I've always found it curious about, if you win a free kick and then the free kick gets scored, do you deserve an assist? Do you get an assist? For someone who plays a lot of fantasy football, I've always thought, yes, I would like that person to get an assist. But it is a curious one of like what merits, because as you know, I watch a lot of basketball and, there are limits to what credits an assist. If I chuck the ball to you, Rich, and you immediately go and shoot, then yes, I get the assist. If I chuck you the ball, you do an amazing dribble, I probably won't get credited with an assist for that because you've gone on, done your own thing. So yeah, if I win a free kick and then you go and put it top corner, do I get the assist, or if I win the penalty, do I get the assist? I don't know. I don't think that will catch on
I
personally.
guess in football, it's too binary almost an assist, isn't it? It is either you got one or you didn't. Well, like you said, there's elements to it, and you look at some of the greatest assists of all time. There's that Guti one for Real Madrid where backheels it on the plate for, I think it's like Raul or Ronaldo. And there's other assists, like you said, where it hits someone's head and then someone does the hard work for them. So I think assists are a very misleading metric anyway. I don't think James McClean will care whatsoever whether he gets given an assist or a goal contribution for that game. But I do think it was another match in which he proved why he's Wrexham captain. He gets a lot of criticism from, I guess, external media, from rival fans, and for having an opinion, for having beliefs. Everything gets used against him. And we've all been subject to criticism in our lives, but for McClean to have it to the extent he does every single game, I don't need to say enough how much I love James McClean and having him as our captain. And yeah, Nath, it was another game where I feel his football did do the talking, but obviously there was the elements of the pitch that are very unsavoury. The fact he had to get his own sort of personal security off the pitch. We've already had that rule sort of dispensation this season, that he can leave from the nearest possible exit so he doesn't have to walk past the most sort of vitriolic supporters. What did you sort of make of the ugly side, I suppose, of Saturday?
Yeah, look, there were lots of stories flying around, lots of, rumours, so to speak, as the game went on. Talk of CCTV being reviewed, an alleged altercation between a fan and McClean, of which there were various renditions of that story, that McClean had allegedly made the first move, or the fan had allegedly made the first move. There's no way McClean, for one, I mean, we know that it wasn't McClean that opened up that situation, but there's no way that James McClean would be allowed to come out and play the second half if he's just gone and lamped a fan. That's not going to happen. The FA, as I put out the other day, and as the Telegraph put out later, but didn't give the podcast or myself a nod, Rich, so boo to the Telegraph. They reported that the FA are looking into it and are just trying to gather more details. Should say as well that a man was arrested and then later bailed from West Yorkshire. That has already been reported as well. And I think you also saw at the end the video that you took, Rich, that went out on socials, where James McClean had a security presence with him. There have been instances this season where, away fans can get right up against the tunnel, can get very, very close to the pitch, right up against the tunnel. That will change when the tunnel is part of the
you can see why there's going to be these changes to the racecourse layout, can't you, as well, just for player safety anyway, and in terms of that. I do think there is an element of kind of British football culture that away ends love to give it to players anyway. I know with McClean it's a very different circumstance. And, if I'm in a Wrexham away end, I don't want to be shoved away in a corner away from all the action and stuff. But there's only so much you can do right now, isn't there? Because the tunnel is where the tunnel is, and it's right next to the away end, which is very poorly placed. Thinking of all the sort of matches we go to as reporters and journalists, I can't think of too many where the away end is right next to the tunnel where the home side come out.
I think as well, it's one of them where you have to ask yourself that, yes, we have all had jokes and chants at the expense of other players in what I would say is, light-hearted and not in any way overly aggressive. We've all said certain things, but what does it say about a player that needs, or their club feels they need, a security detail to get off the pitch in one piece? Now, the rebuttal to that from opposition fans would be that McClean goads them, and we've seen where, he will blow them a kiss, or he will do tears, and he will, get right up against it, and he will happily go toe to toe with any fan that dares to challenge him, and often they won't. I was looking back at that video when he got taken off at Birmingham which led to that special dispensation where you had grown men running down the line um,
I-
to
Yeah,
to
I'd,
sort of
I'd
tackle
also
him.
say in McClean's defence, I've not seen a single game for Wrexham in which he's like retaliate. I guess it's retaliation. Every instance is retaliation. I've not seen a single instance since he's been at Wrexham where he's instigated any sort of issue with the supporters or anything. It seems like he's the target right from the off. So from my point of view, there's obviously going to be different situations and scenarios. Very rarely a two incidents is the same, but from my own sort of supporter sort of led mindset of watching him all season, I just feel he's giving it back. And he's giving back, and he's got every right to do so. The abuse and what he has to go through every single match day is incomprehensible and something I never hope to have to face ever in any line of life. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, if anyone is watching on YouTube, I've been up and down like a fiddler's elbows, I would say, just so that I can get a charger to work. So if anyone sees me disappearing, that is why. Audio listeners are blessed because they don't see me having to get up and down and running around my apartment. But I just think on McClean, I've covered all the other sports where fans have, and crazed fans. If you think about when I've covered tennis, I know this was before my time, but Monica Seles stabbed in the back by a crazed fan. You've had Emma Raducanu recently, forced basically to. I mean, that match was ruined by the fact that she saw a stalker who has been scouting out her hotel. They're slightly different, but I'm saying is that what's that?
Iga Swiatek. She
Yeah,
had been given
Iga Swiatek. Yeah,
increased security after
similar
aggressive
situation.
taunting at the Miami Open.
Similar situation. And in F1, there have been people that have managed to breach the track and get close to these athletes. I think where it differs from you go to some European games that I've been to recently, Rich. You're going through like airport style security to make sure that And while I'm not expecting kind of Heathrow Terminal 4 or Terminal 3 or whatever outside the racecourse away end, I'm not expecting that. I still think there's only so much the club can do with its current resource, and yet these people are able to get right up to the tunnel. And really, if everyone decided to overthrow the steward, there's more fans there than stewards. So, people might think, oh, those are extreme examples about Seles or stalkers, slightly different. But you often say that after the fact, and I do think we shouldn't be overlooking the fact that player welfare is obviously paramount, and the clubs would both say that, and so Stockport are cooperating with any investigation. But it does make you think that there's that much. Grown men are frothing at the mouth at anything James McClean does or says, or
Stockport dads on strings,
blinks.
mate. It's one of those where, but like you said, we can joke about it and make these comments, but it does only take one incident to kind of change football forever, and hopefully we never get to that stage anyway. But it's a very realistic, issue, and it's something that does need to be taken seriously. You can't just say, "Oh, it's part of football." And that's just something we've got to live with. I know, like I said, I like being in the way and I like giving it, but there's a line, and it only takes one person to cross that for those rules to change forever and there to be seismic impact.
Well, Rich, I was going to say, for anyone who is maybe a newer listener or a newer fan, and go and YouTube this if you've never seen it, you haven't heard of it. The Birmingham City fan that ran onto the pitch against Aston Villa and punched Jack Grealish in the face. And that was a real major moment at the time. I'm sure you can remember it, Rich. It wasn't that long ago where there was a real moment of how has this happened and what does this mean for away fans, for the way these derbies are played out? Because, and I don't want to necessarily extend the point too much, but when I went to that Olympiacos game, there weren't away fans there. It's like not the norm. In Argentina, they'll just have home fans. Some countries and cultures will just have home fans. They won't have away fans. Up in Scotland, the Old Firm have had huge issues in terms of, again, how many can you actually have in there? And you just look at it and think, player welfare. There's been an incident years ago, like I just mentioned, where a player got punched in the face by a away fan on the pitch, like actually on the grass in between the white lines, where really the only people that should be able to lay any sort of pain into you is the opposition. Maybe a George Dobson tackle as at the weekend against, was it Callum Camps? I mean, that was a brutal tackle, I thought. And Callum Camps' dad did not like it. I'm not surprised, on Twitter. But yeah, I think if you think it's extreme to be mentioning these kind of examples, I personally don't think it is.
Well, if that's not killed your promotion giddiness, I don't know what will have done. Yeah, Wrexham did beat Stockport, by the way, at the weekend. Wrexham are second in the league.
Maybe we need a break before the next segment, Rich.
Well, Nath, not only a win against Stockport County, but another clean sheet as well, with only a limited number of games left. You know, we talk about goal difference and how we need to score more goals, but that also relies on not conceding anymore either. And not only are Wrexham doing particularly well this season, but they could close in on the club record as well. Anyone in particular you think that's down to, or do you think it's just the sort of the unit of them at the back?
Well, firstly, I want to say that 19 league clean sheets from is it 38 games, 50%. That is nuts. Is that not nuts to you? Like, I just think half of your games have been clean sheets. If that isn't a formula for immense levels of success, I don't know what is. I do think it's a group effort. You know, Howard has come in. I know 14 of those clean sheets are for Arthur, but all 19 are not. We've had Owen O'Connell come in and out. Max has been, I think, absolutely imperious. Lewis Brunt's come in and out, and Tom O'Connor. I think Max has probably been the mainstay in that group because others have chopped and changed. But you could go through that current trio now and the goalkeeper and say that all of those are playing at an extremely high level. And I know you're going to come onto it shortly, but the fact that Dan Scarr's involvement now is limited to reserve games against Mansfield kids. I mean, we're talking a very, very good player there, a very good defender that arrived, I'm sure, convinced that he was going to be a focal point, a key piece of the puzzle to get us out of League One, and it hasn't turned out to be the case. So, yeah, I just want to say, firstly, 19 clean sheets. I mean, they're aiming for 22, I think it was in the league when it was the 2017-18 season. You think back to that great back line of Kevin Roberts or Manny Smith or Sean Pearson, proper warrior defenders. This lot are as good, if not better, and they could go on and get even more. If we come through the next two games where they're both with clean sheets. Funny though, my cousin replied to that tweet I put out, Rich, about the clean sheets, and he says that every time you guys bring this up, we go on and concede. So why have you done this?
Yeah, why have we done this?
Good question. My fault.
As long as we can blame you for any failings this season, that's absolutely fine. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because when you put it into, again, sort of black and white like that, and you do boil it down to half the games have been clean sheets, that is absolutely remarkable. And what I do find interesting is, if you look at what this season so far, I think, I'm just looking through the stats here. Yes, it's correct. I think it's correct anyway. There's only 2 players have been named in every league squad this season. Who do you think they are?
For Wrexham?
Yeah, I think one of them will surprise you.
Okay, named in every squad. So I suppose they haven't
every matchday squad. They've either started or been on the bench.
Right, so they haven't actually played. I would say, Ollie. I feel like he hasn't missed a game. Ollie Rathbone, has he been in there? No. Max has got to have been in everyone, surely. Is he not?
No,
I feel like he hasn't missed a game. Missed 4 games. Who else can have it? McClean's obviously missed plenty. Barney's missed some.
I mean, McClean's missed 2. Plenty, yeah.
Everyone feels like they've missed games. So I don't know. You have to put me out of my misery. I genuinely don't know.
So Wrexham have played 38 League One matches this season. The only 2 players that have been in every single matchday squad are Owen O'Connell.
Right.
He's been in 38 and he's played 34 games for Wrexham this season.
Yeah, wow.
The other person has only played 10 times for Wrexham this season in League One. Dan Scarr. He's been in every single League One squad.
Wow.
So I guess, like you said, we'll get onto it in terms of the reserve game, but it does show that some of these players are still very integral, I suppose, into the back line. And I want to give Max, all his flowers as you have sort of coined, and I know is that an Americanism?
I love them. I can't get enough of
Yeah,
these Americanisms. Just
yeah, they're
give him his
quite good. These
flowers.
these Yanks, aren't they? So you want to give Max all the credit. He's got 7 goals, missed 4 league games. He's felt like that mainstay. But then Owen O'Connell's been there. He's played as many times as Max in the league this season. Yes, he's not. I don't think he's scored a goal this season. Owen O'Connell in the league, maybe not in any competition, but he's always there. And here's one for you, Nathan. That's maybe a fairer judgment of the nucleus of the squad this season. Then the 5 players with the most League One appearances for us this season are Owen O'Connell, Max Cleworth, Barney, McClean, and Dobson. That is half the outfield
a
selection every single
defensive
game.
core, really,
Yeah,
when you look at it like that. And I just want to say, I know you we're giving him his flowers, any flowers he chooses, Mr. Cleworth. I would say, for me right now, in late March, heading into April, he is my player of the season
yeah.
because he is a model of consistency. You could probably count on one hand the amount of mistakes he has made. I believe he's top 2, top 3 most valuable players at the football club. And you might want to say Arthur is a goalkeeper or Rathbone or Smith, whoever you want to say. But Max is right up there, if not the most valuable. I just think the consistency with which he's played with, and look, O'Connell's been great, and he's made a number of incredible appearances, but he has had errors as well, which
Yeah.
he deserves credit from bouncing back from. But errors all the same, and I just think it was at Wickham when I was just pondering, if I was to get a vote tomorrow, who would I pick as player of the season? And about midway through, I was thinking Barney is going to have to sewn up. He's top of the assist charts with
I'd say mine's
um,
changed 4 times.
4 times. So I'm right now. Before I pass it over to you, for me right now, quite clearly, I think with a little bit of distance, Max Cleworth is Wrexham's 2025 player of the season.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. As a conclusion, I think start of the season I would have gone Dobson just because he was so refreshing, loved him in the team. Then I would have gone Barney just because the assists and he seemed to be doing it every single week. Then I would have gone Rathbone because he just felt like, again he had his sort of his period where he was the main man. But throughout that, Max has always been there. He's a 7 out of 10 every single week. Some weeks he's 10 out of 10. He's doing everything. And again, this shouldn't really, and this doesn't count for wide some player of the season. But what I bloody love is you can say how much money we've spent. You can say, all these League One, these Championship, Premier League players we've bought, these internationals, these mercenaries, people want to call them, won't they? And there's this young lad from the academy who's our best player. And again, we're keeping hold of these players now. In years gone by, they would have left. They would have gone to just an average League One or League Two team.
Yeah.
And that's just what would have happened. And now we are not only in a position where we can cultivate our young talent, but the academy isn't just some money-making machine like it used to be. It used to be the backbone, the beating heart of this team. Of the club, sorry, and now it's the beating heart of the defence. You've got Max Cleworth there who's doing it at the first
and
team
Rich,
level.
look at Manny Smith that season, and I remember Chris Westwood. Maybe we brought this up on the podcast before, getting player of the season and then getting released. We're at a different period of this club now, this football club. There's no way that anybody is getting released after a player of the season campaign. And Manny Smith obviously was brilliant, and there was a lot going on there.
I just want to say one thing. The funniest thing about Chris Westwood getting Wrexham Player of the Season was we released him. He signed for Alfreton Town, and on his first game back at the racecourse, he scored a 90th minute winner. That is Wrexham Football Club.
Served us right. That was Wrexham Football Club. That served us right. Great player, great defender, proper old school. And we've had a few of those. Sean Pearson, great defender, old school. And Max is a kind of mix of a lot of things. I think he's got that ruggedness about him. He's good in the air, but he's a good ball player, and that is what you're going to need at the top level if you're going to be in the Championship. You're going to, because you can see that in Lewis Brunt as well. Who's trickled down from a Premier League academy. You can see his composure on the ball, and it's less about the kind of rough and ready nature of League Two, where I know he's played, etc. But you can just sort of see the mould. But yes, I just think Max. If we go up, it's still an if. I think we will. I hope we will. It's an if. The defence has got us there for the most part. We haven't been dynamic in front of goal. We haven't needed to be because the defence is so mean in keeping everyone out. If half the games, there's been no goal for the opposition. That's phenomenal. In some of the others, maybe there's been one, and there'll be others where we've had a bit of a nightmare. We've conceded 2 or 3. Stevenage and Leighton Orient and such. Cambridge as well at home. There have been blots on the record book, but for the most part, we've been incredibly mean and lean at the back. And I think usually, Rich, from covering the game, that is reflective in these end of season awards. You know, there's been no. I'm trying to think. Do we have a player that's in double figures for goals this season? I don't think so. I feel like Elliot Lee, Max is up there for goals as well. Let's not forget. That's what we're forgetting. We're talking about the defence. I mean, think of the
All
header
comps
at
or joint
Peterborough.
league?
I mean, all comps, but I mean, I'm thinking of Max scoring at Mansfield. That was a massive goal.
Yeah, and
Brilliant
again,
finish.
not the type of goal you'd associate with a centre back.
No, he scored against Peterborough. I remember being away at that one. So not only has he been the bedrock of a defence that has had a couple of moments, but has been incredible for the most part, he's also popped up with a lot of goals, and he's probably like our 3rd top scorer or 2nd top scorer in all comps.
I'm just getting that to now because I wasn't prepared for this stat.
Well, look, he's
going
going to be
top goal scorer in the league. I can tell you that for free.
He's going to be up there. Elliot Lee's up there. Stephen Fletcher. But my point being is, we haven't had a. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
Top scorers this season. Max and Elliot Lee both have 8 in all comps. Fletcher has 7. Joint 3rd, Rathbone, Mullin, and Marriott with 5.
It's a slam dunk. Then what are we talking about? Stop the count.
It's not even a debate, is it?
I mean,
so we've just wasted time on that as well.
I mean, let us know if you think, because don't get me wrong, when I was at Wickham, there were people saying that they think Ollie Rathbone has got it sewn up for his impact in the midfield. Others still think Barney for what he did earlier in the campaign. So let us know, robbrownred@gmail.com, and you can get your email read out like Andrew's was. But I think, and I think Rich also thinks that Mr. Max, big man Max at the back, is a slam dunk for Player of the Year.
Nath mentioned earlier Mr. Dan Scarr playing in the reserves. He wasn't the only first teamer, or former first teamer, I suppose, who did play in that game against Mansfield. Here's another little squad stat for you. Paul Mullins made more League One appearances this season than Andy Cannon and Arthur Okonkwo. He's also now made...
Is that right?
Yes.
More than Arthur Okonkwo?
Yeah, Okonkwo's made 25 league appearances this season, and Paul Mullin has made 26.
Paul Mullin has played 26 times in League One this season?
Yes. And again, that is part of... And I know the context of that is a lot of them are from the bench, but when people say he's maybe not had the fair opportunity this season...
26 times?
Yes.
That's mad. That's shocked me, that. That's got me. I didn't realise it was that many.
Okay. So, yeah...
He was in the reserves, is what you're saying. He was in the reserves, and he was in a reserve team that also featured Ollie Palmer, that also featured Dan Scarr, that also featured Jack Marriott, I think, and also featured Yassine Toure, who I know isn't in the first team. But if you see a picture of Yassine Toure and you see his dad, Kolo Toure, who did he play for? Rich, Arsenal, Wigan, I'm trying to think of anyone else. Man City, Liverpool.
And he went to Leicester as an assistant, I believe, did he?
Yeah, he is. I sent you the picture, Rich, on WhatsApp. He's the double, isn't he? So I actually really hope that he can come through and be part of the defence in the future. But yeah, stacked team. Marriott got minutes. Palmer scored from a set piece. Dan Scarr scored from a set piece. Imagine being one of these like Mansfield youngsters playing in the Central League, and you're marking Ollie Palmer and Dan Scarr at corners.
Yeah,
you've just got no chance, have you? And so it proved. But I guess a good workout for players that I actually don't think are going to kick a ball for the first team in the season. But I guess you've got to be ready nonetheless.
Yeah, it's that's the purpose of these games. I know there was those issues initially when, certainly after the takeover, where there wasn't a proper sort of reserve structure in place, was there? And that was something that I think Parker was saying was difficult because you never know when you're going to need to call upon someone. And we've mentioned Dan Scarr there. He's been in more Wrexham squads than most players this season, only Owen O'Connell he's level with. But you might need him at some point. And, it only takes one injury and Dan Scarr comes back into the defence potentially, particularly if it was O'Connell. And he's only played 10 league games, so you need to have some sort of match sharpness there. And that is just the nature of this now. It's also very damning that, there's probably some fans out there who think Mullin and Palmer should still be starting for the first team. Yeah, they're scoring goals at this reserve level, but we've moved on now. And it's quite damning, isn't it? When you look through that team as well, I think Josh Adam was in there. Yeah, it shows once again just the amount of quality we have in reserve. And it also, not to get too morbid, but the closer we get towards the end of the season, there's going to be some heartfelt goodbyes. And Paul Mullin and Ollie Palmer might have played their final game for Wrexham already.
I was looking, because I miss him dearly. I was looking at a picture of Luke Young waving to the Wrexham fans on.
Was this on your Luke Young calendar? What month's this?
That's my self-made Luke Young calendar.
Yeah.
But I was looking back at that, and
not
he
all
did
official
get...
photos either, are they? Some of them taken through
me.
a very long lens.
Leave it for your imagination. His fence isn't tall enough, apparently. That's what
what
I
it says to you. Leave it to the imagination. You have to talk it out.
But he did get that moment where he's able to do a lap of the race course in the shirt, having played. And I know we didn't, it wasn't right to the wire. You were able to do that as a gesture because, we'd beaten Forest Green and whatnot. I don't know if they're going to get that chance. I don't know if that Charlton game, and there's plenty of rumours of, are Sky going to move that game? Are Sky going to, take away that Saturday 3 p.m. if they get wind that it could be a promotion day for Wrexham? If it is the case, are they going to put that prime billing on a Thursday night, on a Friday night, we'll see. We'll soon find out. The club did make a note in the ticketing sales for that game currently does fall outside of the window. Obviously, games up until then have been either selected or not selected, and Charlton is still TBC for television. But I don't know, Rich. I think the promotion race will go right to the wire, and I don't think sentiment and send-offs and gestures are going to even register on Parky and the coaching staff's mind, and nor should it, I should say. But it does feel a bit bittersweet when these players, if we do end up in the Championship at the first time of asking, yes, they haven't done huge amounts this season, but they've still had such huge roles in the grand scheme of the project. I'm sure people hate that word, but yeah, it's just a funny one, isn't it? Because you think, like, at least Luke Young got that send off. James Jones, when he comes back with Burton, I'm sure we'll get a lovely a lovely reception. And same for Anthony Ford. They never quite got maybe the send off, and maybe that'll be more of a trend that you are just going to be cast aside now when your time is up and they can find someone better than you.
Yeah, it's one of those where whatever happens, they will be honoured. It's worth noting Mullin and Palmer both under contract beyond this season anyway, so we've got to find, if that's what happens. There is still that debate that if Paul Mullin had a full pre-season, he's not exactly that much worse than some of the strikers we've had this season, is he? There is that debate there to be had, whether it's the Championship or League One next season. I just think the club will do something right when the time comes for those two to leave as well, given that they've played such an integral role in two promotions, potentially, even three. Ollie Palmer did play a key role this season.
Yes.
There's even the quirk that Paul Mullin could technically win goal of the season for his strike against Blackpool. I still give Marriott on the opening day, but they will be honoured when they do eventually leave the club. It's just football. It's brutal, and that's what happens. Yeah. Obviously, the dream scenario would be that we get a match where Parky can run it back one more time, Palmer and Mullin up top in a game that means nothing. That would be fun to see for old time's sake. But that's not going to happen in any game that means anything between now and the end of the season. And I don't even want to talk about where and when that might be that Wrexham could potentially seal that fate. And one email we got this week as well, Nath, just to maybe bring the mood down once again, was from Jeff Davis, who said, there's been lots of optimism about now. He said, try this for a chronological scenario. We have 8 games left. If Charlton pick up 2 more points than us in the next 6 games, which isn't impossible by any stretch.
No, absolutely not.
They would come to the racecourse. They could come to the racecourse and win. Again, not an impossibility.
Sure.
If that happens, then we would have to go to Lincoln to guarantee second spot and have any chance of doing it. He says, he's basically saying, just be warned, there are plenty of potential for nerves to come. And he said he's still scarred by the collapse at home to Palace and Mansfield in 1977.
Until you said that last line, I thought Jeff was actually your burner account. just to because you don't want to be the one seen as the doom and gloom and the realist. So you just
like
create an
Goldilocks,
email
aren't we?
address.
One of us is too optimistic, one's too pessimistic.
That's
Some
good.
weeks
That's why we
might
work
be
out.
just right, but
That's why we work. That's why we work out. That's why we are the best. I'm going to say. Should we say that? Why not?
no.
We can say what we want on here. But Jeff, I see what he's saying. But I mean, look, Charlton losing at Peterborough, we wouldn't have had that really as a result, would we? We'd have said,
No.
well, that's going to be a win for Charlton. What it is it's exactly what Sutty said a few weeks ago. Can you keep your head? Who's going to keep their head? And in Phil Parkinson, I think you've got probably the most unruffled bloke in the EFL. But I was actually listening to, I don't know, a few people actually sent me this video. It's the second tier pod cover the championship extensively, and as part of their Patreon, they put out I'm not on their Patreon, but they put a thing about how would Wrexham survive? How would Wrexham do in League One and in the Championship, and how would Birmingham do? And they basically said, Wrexham would hugely struggle, and they weren't massively excited. They didn't mind Wrexham coming up if it turns out to be the case, but Birmingham, be top half in the playoffs. One of them even said they think Birmingham, with a couple of additions, would be potential for top 2 to go straight into the Premier League. And there was a lot of talk about, well, Parkinson's had a lot of money to spend, and yet when it came to Birmingham and Chris Davis, what a great job he's done. It's really not easy when people expect you to. Yeah. So, but Parky's like, it's not. Look at this rags to riches fairy tale. So a complete double standard. We're used to that by now. And I like the fact people are writing Wrexham off. They're saying, well, they'll get up, they'll have a shock in the Championship. We were meant to have a shock in League One apparently, and then no one was expecting really a big shock in League Two. I get that, but people said there's going to be Bolton this season, there's going to be Charlton, there's going to be Peterborough, and we were among those people, Rich, saying like, well, we 7th, 8th, yeah, we'll have a bit of a shock, see how we get on. And I don't know, let's just see where it goes. Team spirit goes a long way, and right now we've got as good a team spirit, thanks to that Jay Rodriguez goal, as anyone.
Yeah, for all the money we've got, there's one thing money can't buy, and we've also got that. So yeah, there's a lot of football left to be played.
2 games this week, particularly. Yeah, that's
exactly.
We've got a lot played.
I'll get into those sort of tirades if and when we get there. Let's put it that way. Don't want to get too carried away just yet. But like you said, now 2 tricky tests coming up. Wrexham still, are we saying, been better away from home than at home lately though? And Exeter and Cambridge.
They're going to be absolute grinds.
They're the type of away games I don't like, because I think going to Huddersfield and going to Wickham, we've been very good against other promotion contenders this season. But it is those teams who I think Cambridge could still sort of get sucked into the relegation fight from the top of my head. I think.
Oh, for sure, yeah. No, they're right. They're right down there. Yeah, they're right down there.
I'm sorry, I was getting them mixed up with Wigan, who we play in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes,
Cambridge are right down there.
So they are fighting for their life, and I'm actually more worried. I'm more worried for that game on the Tuesday night. Tuesday night at Cambridge at the Abbey.
I'd say I'm more worried for Exeter.
Okay, Exeter, from what I've gathered, have been very, very sort of stout at home. They're very difficult to score against at home, and they came to the racecourse with the best defense in League One and left tails between legs.
You did say defense, quite North American, then, didn't you?
Defense, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I've been watching too much NBA at the minute. NBA playoffs coming up. Defense. The defense came as the best in League One, and then they left tails between legs, lost 3-0. And Whitworth in goal, he was getting rave reviews on loan from Palace. I think he was getting slaughtered on the way out. So, look, who knows?
They're unbeaten in their last 6.
Right, well...
But they also lost at home 6-2 to Leyton Orient.
Yeah, all we can worry about now is just we turn up, we've got an incredible defence. If we go there and say, right, Exeter aren't going to score, we'll get another clean sheet. And then we only need 1. I get that we were worried last week about goal difference. I still think that is in play, because Wickham are not going to panic the fact that Wrexham beat Stockport because they've got that game in hand. Wickham have still got to play Stockport. I know they've got tough games, but they are also good with Kone. I saw a mad stat that something like 60% of Wickham's points have come with him on the pitch. He's so integral to that team. And I do think it will go down to the very, very end. I think it will be that Charlton game. It will be that Lincoln game. And here's a chance that, look, if we don't get 6, I know people say, got to get 6 points. Just don't lose games now at this point. Keep chipping away. Get a point there. Get 3 there if you can. think if we come away with at least 4 points from the next two, I'm pretty relaxed about how things are going.
I want 4. Honestly, mate, I wouldn't be worried if we got 3. Just because I think all teams are going to be dropping points in this title race. And I almost feel, given the way games have gone recently, I do feel that if we carry on playing the same way, we are due a day where things don't quite go our way. I'm actually fine with that at some point in this run.
And it might be a kick. It might be a kick up the backside. It might be a kick up the backside as well. You know, for the final few, you just go like, "Bloody hell, lads! You've lost to the team in 23rd," and then you end up sprinting to the finish, and you play really well. Sometimes these things have, in a perverse way. Not that we want us to lose. We want us to get 6 points. We want us to win 5-0 each game. Of course.
Nate, we say it often. That Halifax defeat on Good Friday.
You're right.
I don't think the Notts County win happens without it. I really don't. And Nate, should we have some positivity? Who are the most informed team over the last 5 games in League One?
Don't tell me it's Exeter or Cambridge. It's going to be us, I hope.
It's Wrexham AFC.
It's us.
Over the last 5 than any other team. For what it's worth, Exeter are 6th there. They've taken 9 points from the last 15.
Rich, here's a question, because this will be out on Thursday, as it normally is.
Taken 1 point from the last 5.
This is out on Thursday. You're going to have to get your crystal ball out, look to the future. Will you have a Blackpool ticket? Because we had this debate about Birmingham ticket. They were really hard to get. We managed to get those. Blackpool on Easter Monday. What was it 2,115 tickets or something like that? One of the biggest scrambles in recent months. Will you get your hands on one, do you think?
As someone who went to university with a friend, very close friend, who's from Blackpool, I can tell you that I will be at that match, whether it's in the away end or not.
You will be there.
Be in the away end amongst my peers. If not, I will do anything. If I've got to buy hospitality, if we've got to sponsor the stadium for one match, we're going to be there. We have to be there.
The Rob Ryan Red Arena, Rob Ryan Red sponsored match. We should treat ourselves one day with all that our Talk Sport backing now.
I thought about doing that for Port Vale in the Pizza Cup, but that didn't materialise. I've got to ask you then, Nate, because we didn't really discuss this last week. I think it's kind of as read. Would you make any changes for these next 2 games just because it is 2 games back to back, and that could take its toll at the stage of the season, and particularly without trying to be too dismissive? If you're going to rest players, you might say, well, Cambridge is the one to do it, just for the run-in.
It's a curious one because, again, he deserves credit. I thought he played quite well on Saturday, Matty James, but I'm still not huge fans of the James and Dobson partnership. But it's working, and why would you start messing with it now? Andy Cannon being out really has drastically limited our midfield options. But I would be looking at on Saturday. I would be looking at Lee. I actually would be looking at being a little bit more attacking against Exeter and maybe being slightly, which sounds a bit mad given that Cambridge are 23rd, but those night games freak me out under the lights against teams that are battling for their lives, Neil Harris sides. So I would be looking at Lee and Rathbone and Dobson, if you want, on Saturday, and then maybe Dobson, James and Rathbone from the start on Tuesday. I would be looking to get Barney in for one of them. Longman, can't make my mind up. Sometimes I think he's great. He's so attacking. He can go both ways. He can play on both sides. And then sometimes I'm really frustrated with his final ball or his defending. And I think it's so easy to forget that Ryan Barnett's a brilliant, brilliant player who has gone through a difficult spell, but he's still had, whatever happens now, he's still had a brilliant season and a better season than he had in League Two. So it deserves an immense amount of credit. I would be looking to get Barney in there. The wing backs are where I'd be freshening it up. And McClean is going to play, I would imagine, in both as the left wing back. And let's see if we get Longman in one, Barney in the other. But outside of that, you're going to stick with the front 2. You're going to stick with the back 3. And the rest. It's just this Dobson James. You stick with that. Do you try and get Lee in there from the start? Do you keep Rathbone in? What about you? Any drastic surgery to the team?
I'd say on Longman, all I can kind of remember, he's quite good at times, I thought, against Stockport. There's that very good cross early on, left footer that McClean nearly met at the back post.
I mean, Rathbone should have scored from his cross now. That was a guilt
the McClean one as well.
Oh yeah, the McClean one, but didn't Rathbone put a header wide?
Yeah. I was thinking, you're very right about the Rathbone one. So I think I think it's almost flip of a coin between Longman and Barnett at the moment. I'm happy for Barnett to continue to come in for one game and Longman play the other. I'd do the reverse of you this weekend. I'd go for James Dobson against Exeter, and then I'd probably put Lee in against Cambridge, just in the hope that we are a bit more attacking. I know it's pessimism, Wrexham on Tuesday night. What can go wrong? But we're second in the league at the moment. We're the most informed team in the last 5 games. We've got to have a bit of confidence about it. It's not arrogance, but a bit of confidence and self-belief in that regard. If Rodriguez hadn't scored a penalty, I would have been suggesting he got dropped. But I think their partnership is beginning to bear some fruit. Obviously, a big task implementing it when it's been implemented, but it almost feels like a moot point because Parky trusts them both, and at this stage of the season, you only need 1 goal in each game.
God, 8 games to go, Rich. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all. That's potentially
8
all
games
that's
to
left.
go. Wrexham are second in League One, and we're saying, the team's not right. The team's not right.
We've got
I
a
don't
maximum.
care.
We've got a maximum of 10 games. Maximum of 10 games left. That is mad.
Yeah.
How fast the season's gone.
We only have to. 11 games. I hate to say we do have a maximum of, but.
Oh yeah, I just can't do maths. That's why I dropped out of A-level maths. Thank you very much.
But we don't. You could win every game this season and only score 8 more goals, and that's absolutely fine.
8-1 wins, please.
That would be vintage Wrexham. I want people to say this is the worst team that's ever been promoted in League One. I want that hate. I want those thick people who only ever maybe watches against their team once, and they're like, how are Wrexham second? How do they keep on doing this? They're awful. Parky football doesn't work. Well, it worked again against Stockport County.
Yeah,
Will it work again against Exeter and Cambridge? Who knows? Thank you very much for joining us on Rob, Brian, Red, the Wrexham podcast, brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. Thank you very much to Hypnotic, Wrexham-based band, for the music, the stings we have in the show. Take care wherever you are. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Fay.